It's been a long, hard wait for silver stackers out there, basically 10 years underperformance. And then finally, we're getting the kind of move that always seemed likely for silver that we're seeing in the silver market right now are due to the fact that the big exchanges like COMEX, futures contract holders. In other words, there are a lot more people out there with long futures contracts that could come in and demand silver than there is silver to satisfy that demand. The number of people who are standing for delivery on futures contracts is rising. Of silver in these exchanges is shrinking. So you're seeing, sometimes games are being played. There was that, the silver exchanges went down for a while because there was a quote unquote cooling issue, just as silver was going up like $3 an ounce and things like that. Kind of normal in squeeze.
After nearly a decade of underperformance, silver stackers may finally be seeing a long-awaited breakout. In a recent John Rubino interview, growing stress in the silver market was highlighted as futures holders increasingly stand for physical delivery. Major exchanges like COMEX appear to be facing shrinking silver inventories while demand for delivery rises, a classic setup for a silver squeeze. Reports of exchange disruptions and cooling issues during sharp price moves have only fueled investor skepticism. As more longs demand real metal instead of paper contracts, silver prices could continue rising, signaling a potential structural shift in the precious metals market. Now, we present the clips from John Rubino's interview. Before we continue to discuss this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell icon for timely updates.
Their gold holdings keep it up. And if the crypto guys with their stable coins decide they want to launch a bunch of gold-backed stable coins, then the demand for gold is going to be such that, you get up into what seems like crazy numbers right now, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 an ounce. And again, that's something that looks like sounds crazy now, but it's very possible going forward. So gold is still a thing to buy, but it has had a better run than silver up until just lately. And now silver is starting to pick up and outperform gold. And historically, that kind of signals the last year or two of a precious metals bull market. I think this time it has different factors animating it. And I don't think the precious metals bull market ends until governments get their act together. And so right now that's not happening. Every major government is running massive deficits. In other words, adding massively to its debt, which increases its interest costs dramatically, which increases future debt and deficits. So they're still in the death spiral phase of this. Silver is in deficit, meaning the world's silver mines don't produce as much metal as industrial users and investors demand. So we're running through above ground stocks. And a lot of the kind of discontinuities that we're seeing in the silver market right now are due to the fact that the big exchanges like COMEX may not have enough silver to satisfy the demands of futures contract holders. In other words, there are a lot more people out there with long futures contracts that could come in and demand silver than there is silver to satisfy that demand. And, the number of people who are standing for delivery on futures contracts is rising. And the amount of silver in these exchanges is shrinking. So you're seeing, sometimes games are being played. There was that when the silver exchanges went down for a while because there was a quote unquote cooling issue, just as silver was going up like $3 an ounce and things like that. And that is kind of normal in squeezes. The exchanges will do a lot of weird things to keep from having to default. But in silver's case, it may not be possible to avoid some kind of a default where there just isn't enough silver. And so they have to pay out in cash instead of metal. And a lot of people are looking at that as kind of the inflection point where, okay, it's going up. And then there's this default. And then it goes straight up. And there are people out there who are buying on that prediction, that in the not too distant future, we get a serious upside discontinuity in silver. And you want to be there for that. And I think that's certainly possible. I'm not predicting it for the next 6 months or the next 2 years or whatever, but I think that it's definitely on the list of things that could easily happen given the dynamics in this market. So, I'm not selling any of my silver that I've laboriously stacked over the last 10 years, because I think the real fun is still to come. And, you don't want to wait a really long time in a dead market and then finally have the market turn around and you get out too soon and miss the big move that you've been waiting for. And sleep at night, in most cases, is to continue to accumulate gradually and just look for good deals on the expectation that your target price is, let's say, $200 with silver. So if you end up buying some at 70 and buying some at 80, it might be very painful if there's a correction back down to 50, but you'll still feel good about what you've done when silver finally reaches that real exit point of in the hundreds. Silver stocks are having a nice run, and there really aren't that many of them because most silver is mined as a byproduct of other kinds of metal mining. If you have a nickel mine or a copper mine, you'll make some silver and you'll sell it, but it's not your main business. So there aren't that many silver mines. And now that silver is a hot topic, if you're a mining company with silver in your name, you're attracting some generalist money. Mining is a highly leveraged business. In other words, an increase in the price of silver leads to a bigger increase in the operating profits and cash flows of a well-run silver miner. So you got that operating leverage there too. The price of silver is going up, and then the cash flow of these silver miners should go up even faster. And that's a really nice it's a really nice combination of traits, which you don't see that often in the world. And you certainly don't see them out there right now. There are very few industries where you've got this kind of upward arc in basically everything good. And that's where silver is right now. So the silver miners, there's still some potential 10-baggers out there in the explorers. And there's still 3 to 5 baggers at every level of the silver mining complex. So, yeah, I think that, again, low ball bids, dollar cost averaging. Don't just buy stuff at the market with all your money. Buy a little at a time at prices that are as favorable as you can get in this kind of a market, and then just assume you'll spend a few years positioning yourself and hope by that time the real parabolic move is ready to happen.
After a decade of frustration for precious metals investors, silver may finally be entering a powerful new phase. In a recent John Rubino interview, the longtime financial writer and metals analyst explained why today's silver rally looks fundamentally different from past false starts. According to Rubino, the silver market is facing a growing structural deficit, with industrial demand and investor buying exceeding global mine supply. At the same time, inventories on major exchanges like COMEX are shrinking, while more futures holders are standing for physical delivery. This imbalance raises the risk of a delivery failure or cash settlement, a scenario many believe could trigger a sharp upside move in silver prices. Rubino also notes that silver is beginning to outperform gold, a pattern that historically occurs in the later stages of precious metals bull markets. Combined with massive government deficits, rising debt, and limited new silver mine supply, these factors suggest silver, and select silver mining stocks, could see explosive long-term upside for patient investors. Share your thoughts on his analysis in the comment section below. If you find this video informative, please support and turn on notifications to stay informed about our latest videos.